We were huddled around the video game, and from out of nowhere, this resounding voice came in from behind us saying, "You're a jerk." And we looked back cautiously and curiously, and to my astonishment, she was looking right at me. Hello everybody, my name is Bishop Freesh, and I want to welcome you to My Life Through Music, where I talk about the songs that were either there or the songs that describe feelings, thoughts, emotions that I was experiencing at a particular place or a particular time. And the song that actually does both of those things is Crazy for You by Madonna, released in 1985. Now, before I tell you how I found myself in this precarious situation, I just want to quickly say that I absolutely love Madonna's work. All the way from the beginning up to the present. And one of the many things that I love about her personally and professionally is that she absolutely, unequivocally does not care what anybody thinks or anybody says about her. And it's evident in her music as well as her persona. And I absolutely love and I respect that quality. So let's get back to why I was a jerk. At this point, my brother and I, we had settled into our new home, our new schools. We were making lots of really cool friends. And we also met two brothers that lived up the dirt road from us. And initially, it was bikes that brought us together. But it was music that made us friends. But soon after, the oldest brother, he got his driver's license. And naturally, he grew out of his bike and into his new truck. And this new truck took him from the ramps and the tracks that we made and the quarter pipes that we built in the desert to new places. And one of those places was the Shadow Mountain Skate Center. And it was ironically a place that I was familiar with because I used to go there before I moved out into the sticks. And I didn't go anymore because I lived so far away. But when he started going, I started going again. And it was there where I met my first serious and official girlfriend. And she was absolutely beautiful. She really was. She had golden blonde hair, really long. She had really pretty eyes with like long eyelashes. But the thing that I remember most, that I'll never forget, was her voice. She had the quietest and softest voice I'd ever heard. And it was really cool because it was compelling because you had to actually listen. You had to lean in so you could hear what she was saying. And there was a really awesome quality to that. And when we saw each other there at the skating rink, we would do this thing called couple skate. Do you remember that? Do you remember those days? Some of you may not, and some of you may. But that was when the DJ would put on a love song or a slow song, and he would get on the mic with this really smooth voice, and he would say, "This next song is couples only, this next one." And then the main lights would go out, and these tiny little lights would reflect off of the disco balls in the middle, and they would reflect lights onto the walls and on the people around, and it was kind of like this really romantic and intimate setting. And these were the days where you actually had to go up and talk to a girl. You would have to ask her if she wanted to skate. And there's nothing like the butterfly, especially at like 13, 14 years old, that you get in your stomach. Like I said, when the lights go down and that love song comes on, as you go up to ask her to skate with you, not knowing what she's going to say. And we did it all the time. We didn't care. And they would play 2 songs. And it was probably because it took us guys, at least 1 song to get up the courage, or half a song to get up the courage, or find the girl that we wanted to ask, and then the next song to actually skate with her. And we would go out there, and you could do it a couple ways. You could go out there and you could skate side by side, and you could hold hands. But if you were really smooth, you could skate backwards, and then she could skate forwards in front of you, and she could put her hands on your shoulders or around your neck, and then you could put your hands on her hips and get real intimate that way. And so that's what we would do when we met each other skating usually. And so if we weren't at the skating rink, seeing each other, we were on the phone whenever we could. Do you remember those days? I mean, you just couldn't wait to either get home from school or get home from whatever you were doing. You'd call your girlfriend, or your girlfriend would call you, and you'd be up, and everybody would be waiting for the phone. That was when there was no cell phones. You had to wait for the phone, and if you called, it was busy, and you had to wait. You're like, oh man, it's busy. It's not like that now. But on one of those conversations, I had mentioned to her that I was going to be going to the skating rink with my friend, and I told her, I said, hey, why don't you meet up with us? We could hang out. It would be cool. And she was like, yeah, that'd be great. And she was excited. And it was funny. Well, it wasn't funny. But when I got there that following Saturday, I think it was a Saturday, we got there and she was already inside. And when I got in there, I walked in, like a 14-year-old, man. You just walk in, you're like, hey, what's up? And so for all intents and purposes, this is kind of like a date, like 14-year-old, how 14-year-olds do it, And I walk in there, I'm like, hey, what's up, And then I go and I hang out with my boys, And I know, nice move. So we're huddled around Donkey Kong. And do you remember back then when you played those stand-up video games? Usually you'd have one guy and he's like working the joystick and he's pounding on the buttons and stuff. And there's like a group of guys huddled around, peeking in, pointing, hey, do this, do that, go that way. No, you're going to get killed. Do this, do that, watch out. And it was at that moment when we heard this girl's voice booming in from behind us, like I said, and she was like, you're a jerk. And like I said before, we slowly turned around. We were cautious about this. And it was my girlfriend's friend. And she was looking right at me. And she continued to just let me have it. She was like, you invited her here, and she's here, and you're out skating and with your friends, and you're playing video games, and right now there's a couple song, and you're not even asking her to skate. She's over there by herself in the dark, and she kept going on, and I was like, man. I paused for a second, and I quickly realized that she was right. And I started to identify or switch places with my girlfriend in the best I could in my 14-year-old mind. And I quickly, this happened, in a matter of seconds, but I quickly thought to myself, hey, I essentially invited her here. She took the time to get a ride, get ready, did her hair, did her makeup. And on the phone, when I talked to her, she was excited. And it was cool, And my friends were looking at me like, what are you going to do? Are you going to hang out with us, or are you going to go? And I had to make a decision. Continue to hang out with my boys or do the right thing. And I looked over and I saw her across the room, and she was sitting alone. And it was dark, and the lights were reflecting off the disco ball, and they were going off the walls, and they were reflecting off of her. And I skated over to her, and she was sitting on a bench. It was a bench where you can look out onto the skating rink and just watch. And I sat down next to her, and I was nervous. I was really nervous. And as I sat down, I kind of just put my hands to my side, and I gripped the bench because I didn't want to show her that I was nervous, but I was nervous. And I looked over at her, and I told her that I was sorry. And she knew that it was a sincere apology, and that I meant it. And I turned to give her a little kiss, and she started to do the same. And at that moment, as I was leaning in, there was this rush of this flowery perfume that came flooding into my nose right before I kissed her. And it made, a kiss is great, but this just made it better. And after I kissed her, she smiled, and all was forgiven. And then I stood up, and I said, hey, let's go skate, And we went out there, and we skated together. And at that point, the first song was coming to an end. And the next song that they played was Crazy for You by Madonna. And I knew that she liked this song because during one of our, couple hour conversations, we were talking about music, go figure, and she mentioned that. So it was the perfect song for the perfect moment, which is what I live for. And later on, I don't remember if it was that night or later on, but later on she would tell me that before leaving for the skating rink that day, she snuck into her mom's room, and she snuck a few squirts of her mom's perfume. And I think that just makes it for an even sweeter story, at least to me. And that is why this song is where it's at in my Life Through Music playlist. And I'm going to put the link below so you can check it out. If you haven't heard it or it's been a long time, I encourage you to check it out because it really will display what I was feeling and thinking, and it was there. It was there. And as always, I really appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks a lot.